Okay, we're running long, so let's burn through item number 6F, the Stage 3 drought update. Then we'll close it out with the manager's report.
So
Joshua.
yes, Mr. Chair, we are running a little long here. I'm going to have Ms. Dyer do the presentation today, and we'll move through it quickly and hit the highlights. She will be making this presentation to City Council next week. I will be at a conference, and we'll try and wrap this up in about 15 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Kilburn, Commissioners. My name's Kelly Dyer, and there won't be a lot that's new in here, so I'm going to probably just breeze through the things that you have seen before and focus on the new parts. So the outline is a brief update on the drought status, our demand status, and our water supply status. Show our water supply strategy, drought funding. I think water rates we've already talked about, so I won't be going into that, and then have a few slides on water conservation. So these are the rain totals for the current water year. This is taken from the County of Santa Barbara's website. And so we've had above normal rainfall at all of our reservoirs. This chart shows the rainfall at Gibraltar. You can see the last 5 years, we had well below average rainfall. And then in our current water year, we've had just above average rainfall. This hatched mark is from that one huge storm that we had on President's Day weekend. So, but for that one storm, we would otherwise still be below average rainfall for the year. This is a chart showing Cachuma storage. So the green is the last major drought, showing the 1986 to 1993 period. And then the black line is our current drought. So we trended pretty closely with Cachuma storage as we did in the last drought. This drought was more severe, so you can see Cachuma storage didn't bounce back. We didn't get relief as quickly as we did in the last drought. That one storm we had in February brought the reservoir up 50 feet in 1 month. So I think we tracked pretty closely to what we did last time. And we had a lot, things have changed since then with our environmental requirements. So I think we did pretty well. The storage is currently about half full, which puts us back to where we were roughly in 2014 when we first declared drought. So we don't know if next year will be dry or wet, but we've rewound the clock in terms of Cachuma storage for a couple of years. This is a U.S. drought monitor. It's put together by the federal government, NOAA, and it pretty much shows that the rest of the state is out of the drought. They actually have too much water. But in our area, we are still in a drought. And something I wanted to make clear, there's actually a note on here that says the drought monitor focuses on broad-scale conditions and local conditions may vary. Well, that's true even within our county. There's North County residents that have larger groundwater basins and are not in as severe drought as we are here on the South Coast. So the South Coast remains, I think every agency still remains in a drought declaration with emergency water use restrictions. Our demand status, it looks like for the month of March, we had a 44% reduction in water use compared with our 2013 water use. That's remarkable. When we were, at that time, most of March we had the lawn ban in place. It was March 21st when we went to council to revise our stage 3 declaration. So I think this continued conservation of 37% running average is reflective of the water use restrictions we had in place. Here's a chart showing our total water production. It's historical, going back to 1980s. This is one of my favorite charts. Here's the water use before the last drought. And then you can see a dramatic reduction in water use in the 1989 to 92 period. After the drought ended, our demands slowly recovered, but they never got back to what they were before. They remained about 20% lower than they were in the 1980s. And then here we are in the current drought, and our water use is pretty much exactly the same now as the low point from the last drought. So I think that's shows the great efforts of our community to take action on their own to reduce their own water use. So our supply status, Gibraltar is currently full, and we've been diverting since March 1st. We are maximizing our use of Gibraltar now while the water quality is good. And one of the challenges we have with Gibraltar is if the water sits too long and over the summer months it starts to degrade. So we're really trying to maximize as much as we can while the water quality is looking really good. And we also have our hydroelectric plant that is now online, so that's pretty exciting. Cachuma is at about 50% of capacity, but not all of that water is project water. That's a pretty complicated accounting system where some of the water is for fish account, some is state water, some is for downstream water rights. So when you take out all the different slices of the pie, what we have for project water allocation this year is a 40% allocation from the Cachuma project. Fish releases resumed with the additional water and storage. And you may recall from last month's discussion, there was a concern that the fish releases were going to be done through the Hilton Creek Emergency Backup System, which uses the outlet works at Bradbury Dam, and it shut down our state water deliveries. So that did occur. Our state water deliveries are now back online. Central Coast Water Authority staff were able to install a bypass around the outlet structure, similar to what we had before. It goes a little bit farther into the lake, but it definitely was a great effort by CCWA to act swiftly and get our state water deliveries back online. Our emergency pumping barge has been dismantled. All water from Cachuma is now gravity flowing. We don't expect that we'll need the pumping barge until August of 2019. So that gives us a couple of years before the current projections would show the lake level dropping low enough to need the barge again. Cachuma Operation and Maintenance Board is the agency that installed the facility, and they'll be making a decision this Monday, April 24th, on what to do with it now that it's dismantled and planning for the next phase in case it's needed again in a couple of years. And then finally, just to mention, we have this contract renewal. The Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors meeting is on May 2nd. At that point, county staff will be requesting authorization from the board to submit a formal letter to the Bureau of Reclamation requesting the contract renewal for the Cachuma project. So imported water.
Again, I didn't ask that question to Tom, but I'll ask the question here. When that goes to the board in a second, or they're just asking to begin the contract renewal, or are they actually at that particular point setting up that process and that structure? Do you know?
Chair Kilborn, Commissioner Davis, what they're doing, there's a clause in the current contract that says that if you intend to renew the contract, you need to submit a formal letter 2 years prior to the contract expiration date. So the contract expires in 2020. So that is, it's somewhat of a formality.
Just a letter asking to begin the renewal. Okay, great.
Correct.
Good, thank you.
Let's see. The state water allocation has increased from 60% to 85%, so that was good news. And as I mentioned earlier, the state water deliveries to Cachuma have also resumed. Snowpack is well above normal, which means that DWR is providing Article 21 deliveries and expects to have those continue through June. Metropolitan Water District, still in the process of reconciling the numbers at this point. We expect to get about 1,400 acre feet back out of the 4,500 we put in. And later this year, we'll be considering whether we use some of our Table A water to pay back AVEC, some of our water debt that we owe to AVEC, or put it into other groundwater banking programs. That will all depend on, I think, once we get the final numbers on the Metropolitan deal, we'll have a better sense of how much water we'll have in San Luis. The risk of leaving it in San Luis is that it might spill next year. The conditions are a lot different than it was earlier in the drought when San Luis was very low. I think I'll skip some of this. So desalination, we have major construction is complete, and seawater has been circulating through the plant since February. This Friday, we expect that the RO membranes will be loaded, and then the 14-day acceptance testing is anticipated to begin May 4th, which is a 14-day period. So we could have our desalination water going into the system by mid-May.
A little more clarification. The way that 14-day testing works, when they start it, they will have gotten DDW, Division of Drinking Water's approval already. And so during that acceptance testing, if the water meets all the requirements of the specifications, they very well could put it into the system during that acceptance testing period. And so there is some it could be earlier than mid-May at this point. So there's still a lot that needs to come together, but that's, we'll be watching that closely, and we'll be looking to do a press release as soon as we enter that acceptance periods testing.
Okay, our water supply strategy, again, we look 3 years out and assume continued drought conditions. This is based on a 30% conservation target. We're currently in the 6th year of drought, so we look out to 2019. We have desal coming online this spring. Really, the big change in our water supply as a result of the rains we had this year is we're going to be using our Gibraltar water and maximizing use of Gibraltar this year. So that's this light blue here that wasn't previously available to us. Any Cachuma allocations we get this year will serve as contingency or backup supply, and we would likely carry it over for use next year.
Kelly, on that, it shows in 19 going back to groundwater.
Correct. I skipped over that slide earlier. Our groundwater basins are currently resting. We've shut down all of our wells. But we did have some remaining yield. Both basins were at about 30% of capacity. Okay. So if we can rest our basins now, that yield would be available for use in later years of the drought. So drought funding, just an update on Prop 1. On April 3rd, the state released draft guidelines for the desalination grant program. Up to $73 million is available for construction projects with the max project award of $10 million. So we viewed this as a great opportunity because our project really fulfills the goals and priorities of the program, which was really to improve our drought reliability and drought supplies. There are concerns over eligibility based on the timing of our project. The state is looking for a grant award before you complete the project, and since we're almost complete, most of our major construction is complete, the grant award would then be afterwards. So we will be submitting a comment letter to DWR on their draft guidelines, looking for them to change those eligibility dates, and also discussing with state elected officials. Senator Jackson has been closely involved and engaged with this, so we'll be reaching out to her office as well. The comment period ends May 12th, and then final guidelines on the grant program are expected in early June. And now I'll hand it over to Madeline Ward, our Water Conservation Supervisor, to talk about our water conservation updates.
Chair Kilburn and members of the commission, my name is Madeline Ward, and I have some quick conservation updates for you guys today. Every year we sponsor a special award at the Santa Barbara County Science Fair, and it's for projects that address water scarcity, water resource management, or water conservation. This year's winner for 2017 was Nev Greenwald of La Colina Junior High with her project called Harvesting Atmospheric Water. Her project, she measured the rate of evaporation on various surfaces to find the optimal hard surfaces that could collect and retain the most rainwater. We also had 2 runners-up, Emily Doreen, also of La Colina Junior High, and Noah Wetzel of Goleta Valley Junior High. So congratulations to our local budding water scientists. I also wanted to remind everyone about power outages and their effect on sprinkler timers. Edison has been doing work around the city this week and will continue to do more next week, so many customers may experience a brief power outage. Most sprinkler timers do have a backup battery basically underneath that first surface that you can see. Most of the time we find that these are missing or they're dead, and the purpose of that backup battery is if the power goes out, that battery remembers all of your programs. So if it's missing or dead, they'll go on default and it'll water every day, every station at midnight for 10 minutes. It will often double your water usage. So please remember to check your backup battery every year or replace it, and then check your timer after each power outage. I also wanted to promote 2 of our upcoming classes. We have Greywater 101 on Tuesday, May 2nd, and Rainwater Harvesting 101 on Thursday, May 11th. Both of them are from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Mackenzie Park building up at Mackenzie Park on State and Las Positas. They're taught by Sweetwater Collaborative and sponsored in part by the City of Santa Barbara.
Okay. Any questions?
Is there any questions?
Thank you.
Nope. All right. Thank you so much.